Today I want to share with you my 3 top tips on how you can transform that inner self-critic, that little voice inside your head that's always niggling and causes you to self-sabotage. I want to give you my tips on how you can turn it from self-critic into your best self-coach. I'm your host, Daniel James, a mindset and high performance coach, and my mission is simple. I want to give you the information that I wish that I'd had sooner, so hopefully it can help you wherever you are on your journey. So this inner voice, this internal voice that we've got, a lot of the times, the reason why we get ourselves stuck in these negative thought patterns and these negative spirals is because actually what we've got is our own worst enemy living between our ears. It's the voice that always tells us that we're not good enough, that we're being lazy, that we're unlovable, that no matter how hard we try, we're not going to make it, so what's the point? And this inner critic that most of us have is the thing that destroys our progress, because whenever we start to make any progress towards the life that we want, there it is. And because that voice sounds like us, we think it is us. But here's the question for you. If that voice is really you, who's the one listening? You. You are the listener. So therefore, you cannot be the voice. You are the observer of the voice. You are the observer of this narration. And a lot of the times we get it confused. We think we are our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We are the observer of the thoughts. So a lot of the times we're having this negative self-talk. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a loser. I'm so unlovable. And we think it's fact. It's not fact. It is you observing the thoughts. So rather than you getting hooked on this thought that I'm lazy, can we just take that step back and ask ourselves or say to ourselves, I'm noticing me, the best version of me. I'm observing my thoughts. I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that I'm lazy. We just separate ourselves from it, because from there we can do something about it. Because what happens is it just gives us these horrific destructive punishments for things that we do wrong. We're constantly beating ourselves up. We're constantly telling ourselves that because we did this, we deserve this horrendous punishment, this horrendous thing, and anything bad that happens to us, it justifies that it's fine. And we just get stuck, and then we wonder why we're feeling so negative. Because long-term listeners of the show will know, our thoughts lead to our feelings, and our feelings lead to our actions. So if we've got this negative self-talk, the thoughts we're going to have are going to be so negative, especially if the thoughts that we're having are that we're not good enough and we deserve all this negativity. That's going to lead to us feeling pretty rubbish, which then means we're going to take no action or half-hearted action because we don't really believe that we're worth anything. So just being aware that a lot of these thoughts that we have come from this negative self-talk, because thoughts are essentially us asking and answering our own questions. And if we don't have control of this inner voice, this inner critic, it can become an absolute nightmare. So what can we do? What can we do today to retrain this voice to become our greatest friend, our greatest ally, our own self-coach rather than self-critic? Well, the first thing we've got to do is gain awareness. Awareness is the key to everything, because if you are not aware of something, you can't do something about it. So you might be saying, well, I don't think that voice is that negative. Well, have you ever stopped to listen to it? When something bad happens, or you do something that's not in alignment with the kind of person that you want to be, do you take a step back and ask, well, how did I get here? Or when you're ruminating on that thought and you're down a negative thought pattern, do you ever stop to ask, where did this start? Because we need to start recognizing when we're in that critical self voice, that critical self-talk mode. Because you'll say, yes, you're lazy, you're being stupid, you're not good enough. You never follow through with what you say. You just got to start to notice the words that you're using about yourself. And here's the more important thing. Would you choose to be having those thoughts? Would you choose to be speaking to yourself that way? And if the answer is no, well then who's choosing? And it's that critic. You are not actively choosing the thoughts. That best version of you is not actively choosing these thoughts. It's the old patterns, it's the old habits. And again, a lot of this stuff, we'll go into this in future episodes, a lot of this stuff comes from childhood. So once we become aware, would I choose to call myself lazy? Would I choose to tell myself I'm not good enough? Would I choose to tell myself I never follow through with anything? No. Okay. So just gain awareness. Because there'll also be times when you do have this positive self-talk. So once again, gain awareness of that. When you're saying to yourself, why didn't that work out? How can I adjust? How can I do something different? Because you may be able to do it in one area of your life, but not in others. But the very fact that you gain awareness that you can do it in one area means that you can do it in another. So the first step of just changing this self-critic into a self-coach is just gaining awareness of what situations this self-critic shows up and what are the words that it uses. Because then step number 2 is all about reframing. We reframe from this destructive narrative into a constructive, because it's that destructive narrative that leads us down that dark path. It leads us into that path of beating ourselves up, because your brain is just like Google. You say to yourself, why am I so useless? Why am I so lazy? Why am I not good enough? And it'll give you the answers. Remember, thinking is just asking and answering questions. So we need to then change the questions that we're asking into more of a constructive thought pattern. Because once we get into this constructive thought pattern, that's when real change can happen. So what we want to do is catch this critical voice. We catch ourselves going down this path, having this almost internal monologue with ourselves. We catch that critical voice and then we pause and reflect. So what does that look like practically? Well, we notice that harsh self-talk. Cool. We notice it. And then once we notice, just pause. That's interesting. I'm doing that thing again. And then from there, ask, how would I speak to a friend in this situation? Would I choose to belittle them? Would I choose to use this kind of terminology, this language? Would I choose to get them feeling this way? And then from there, because the answer is obviously going to be no, well, how would you speak to them? How would you like them to feel? And then use that tone and approach on yourself. Now, it's going to feel really alien and really weird when you first start doing this. But just like anything, the more you practice it, the better that you get at it. My final step from turning this internal voice from self-critic to self-coach is to coach yourself forward. So when things do go wrong, which they inevitably do, they're always going to go wrong. You cannot take your negative situation and say, it's never going to happen again. Nothing bad's going to happen. Life happens. I was talking to a client about this yesterday. You can't take the stress out of life. Life is always going to be stressful, but you can learn to navigate that stress. Same with things going wrong. Things are always going to go wrong. But it's just, how do you deal with that? And this is about coaching yourself forward. So when things do go wrong, you want to learn to become your own coach and become your own best friend and your own advocate, and asking yourself things like, okay, well, what can I learn from this? That's the gold standard. What can I learn from this? When something goes wrong, what can I learn from this? What lessons can I take from this? Because with this thing that's gone wrong, a lot of times you think, that's a failure. I failed. Well, no. If you're taking lessons from it, by definition, you're changing that failure into a lesson. So then you take these lessons and you move forward. And then it's asking yourself, okay, well, what support do I need? What support do I need? And who do I know that can provide that support? And then reach out. Or then, how can I set myself up for success moving forward? These questions are the empowering questions, because once we ask ourselves these empowering questions, we get empowering answers. Just like Google, ask a negative question, get a negative answer. Ask a positive, empowering question, get a positive, empowering answer back. So my challenge for you over the next 7 days is do a language audit. Just start to catch yourself when this inner critic is running wild. And when you are catching yourself, write down what it's saying. Write down what it's saying and then coach yourself. Rewrite the words and the phrases that it's using into a more positive, empowering tone. Flip it on its head. You hold the power to control your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer. And once you observe it, you can choose to think differently. If you've taken any value from this episode, please think about giving us a thumbs up and sharing it with a friend. I'll see you guys next week. Take it easy.